think it's going. Yep, we're good.
All right. So you want to now start the countdown clock with 5 minutes.
I will. Okay. Okay, hold on. I have an extra window here, I think. Going. Yep, we're good.
All right.
Okay. So now go to share screen. Oh. We're going to get the countdown clock going, which
At 4 minutes now.
So I had it pulled up and now I just need to locate it again.
Okay.
Here it is. Okay, so I'm going to go to 4 minutes. And I will share my screen. And then we'll start the player.
Okay.
And here we are.
All right. And I assume we are now, or we've been live for
We are live, Jeffrey Mishlove. Yes, we are.
Okay. We finally got it working, a few minutes late, but better late than never.
Yes. All right.
And
you're getting a lot of birthday wishes coming in.
okay. So if I wanted to double check, I could turn on I could just go to the page and what would happen if I go to this page? Yeah, it shows that it's live.
We did it. Yes, the settings slightly changed for us this time, but we prevailed.
Okay. Okay. I won't open up the page.
You're getting a happy birthday from Finland, Fernando Guerrero. Lots of happy birthdays coming in.
Okay, that's wonderful.
Christopher Naughton is on. Hi, Christopher, saying happy birthday to you. So nice to have you join us. And I trust Valerie's with you. Hello, Christopher and Valerie. And a lot of other wishes coming through.
Okay, yes, I see.
Thank you, everybody. So kind. And some questions coming in as well for you.
Yeah.
Just to mix it up. Christopher saying Valerie's there. That's nice.
Okay. Then I've got my libation ready.
I've got my libation. If anybody else wants to join in a libation, either NA or A, whatever your pleasure is.
I've got sparkling water.
Sparkling water. I have a little sparkling rosé myself.
Nice.
And I'll be sipping on lemon water throughout, however, but we'll ready to toast you for sure at any moment.
Okay, well, we're going to start in just a minute.
In just a minute. Yes, we are. The Netherlands, Chantal Beshferes.
I want to make a point of standing up at some point and letting everybody see this shirt you got for me.
That's so fun. Limited edition, no doubt.
Yeah.
Looks great on you. China. Frankie loves foxes. Northeast China's joining. Ron Thomas has got some carrot juice straight up. Yum. Yes, you can make questions. People are asking. Please do. India, Germany.
You're watching the chat, are you?
I am, yes. It's fun to see the people who you've attracted from all over the world.
Okay.
Turkey. Bermuda, Brazil. South Carolina. Okay.
Okay. Welcome, everybody, to my birthday party. I'm so glad you're here. Before we begin, let me just one more time show this lovely birthday gift I got from Emmy, not to mention the wonderful banners that Emmy surprised me with just yesterday. And on top of that, Emmy has surprised me with a poem. So why don't we start right there, Emmy?
Wonderful. Well, welcome everybody to Jeffrey Mishlove's birthday live stream. I'm Emmy Vadnais, his co-host, and I wrote Jeffrey a little, I guess we could call it a poem yesterday. So I'm going to go ahead and begin with this. And it's titled Swimming in Heaven at 77. Searching with spirit on a mission, being indelibly driven, proven through the word with others woven, with so much given, simultaneously receiving, rising above levitation, under many stones a stepping, turning over amidst declaration, deep and ultimate reflections, through various perceptions, distinct and eloquent conversations, traveling through creation with unmistakable elation, heartfelt attraction, thoughtful ambition, gracious intention, expanding oceans beyond limitation, grand affection, you, me, we, invitation for fruition, individuality within oneness, inspiration for multiple generations, magical manifestation, charming divination, growing prescient presence, continuing with endless illumination, purifying transcendence, evolution without conclusion, lucky 11 times 7, blessed mentation and sensation, a beautiful celebration. Now let's enjoy a libation. Cheers to you, Jeffrey Mishlove.
And cheers to all of our viewers as well, and to you, Emmy.
Thank you, Jeff. Yes, the viewers. So excited to have everybody joining us.
And I thought I would begin. My wonderful wife, Janelle, when I turned 60, prepared a slideshow about 60 years of my life. So we've updated it a little bit to include events since my 60th birthday. And I thought I would just share some of those pictures with our audience. And let's see. I already lost the slideshow. Give me a moment to find it, and I will once again share it.
They're wonderful images. I know everybody's going to enjoy seeing
Here
them.
we go. Here we go.
Ready?
Yeah, I am ready. And there. So this is, I think, one of the very earliest pictures of me.
Oh, your mom.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little something about your mother, Jeff, before you
Well,
move to the slide?
I always wanted, when I was in college, I felt unhappy and bitter because I didn't grow up in a family of yogis. And then my mother became a yoga teacher. She taught yoga for 30 years. So she was a very saintly person. She's been gone now since 2011. But I was very blessed to grow up in a family where I was loved. This is in my senior year in high school. I was part of a folk song group.
And wait, can you go back to that slide just to make sure everybody knows where you are? You are playing the ukulele, right?
It's the baritone ukulele. Yeah, I'm in the front on at least on my screen, it's in the left.
Yeah, fun.
Yeah. Senior picture in high school. Here I'm a freshman in college. on the roof of the dormitory where I stayed in Madison, Wisconsin. Here I am, I think, in my junior year in college. And now I'm already attending parapsychological conventions. 1973, this is the Czech parapsychologist Milan Riesel, who specialized in training psychic abilities, which was always a big interest of mine. And here is a picture of me alongside of William James. I've always thought there's kind of an uncanny resemblance, even facially. We look alike. And Walter Semke, the late Walter Semke, wrote in one of his books that he thought I was the incarnation of William James. And I've always been kind of tickled by the idea that it might be true, but I honestly don't have any validation of that hypothesis.
But he's one of your heroes.
He is, yeah.
Your intellectual hero, yeah.
And this is the cover of the first edition of my first book in 1975. And here I am. This is about 1977, I think. And I had a girlfriend who wrote an article about me in a local paper titled "It's Sexy to Be Psychic," with this picture of me. But this is the wedding invitation, 1978. And here I am with Janelle at our wedding. And I can honestly say, looking back, this was the happiest day of my life.
What a beautiful couple you two make.
And then my second book, based on my doctoral dissertation about training psychic abilities. And here's a professional photograph we had taken in the early years of the Thinking Aloud public television program. And here it is, of course, I think most of our viewers are familiar with the opening sequence from the old TV show. At one time, we were carried by about 120 stations across North America.
Yeah, that's how I first learned about you.
And this is the interview with Joseph Campbell. People sometimes wonder, why don't you show this interview? But the Joseph Campbell Foundation that acquired the rights to all of his material after he died asked us not to, so we don't show this video anymore.
And do they show it?
No, I don't think so.
Maybe we need to reapproach them, because it would be nice to. What do you?
Well, the irony is that Joseph Campbell personally signed a release, so it's not as if we don't have the right to show it, but out of a courtesy to them, we haven't.
Are there any?
Was a good friend of mine.
Are there any highlights from the Joseph Campbell video interview that you can recall, since it's not yet available for viewing?
Well, of course, we asked him, what is his advice for young people? And he responded with his classic statement, follow your bliss.
Yeah, which is really, you can't go wrong with that one.
Yeah. And here I'm in trance. I actually was hypnotized on camera. And this is where I got in touch with my inner healing advisor, who turned out to be the ancient Roman philosopher Seneca, who's always been a big influence. And I've shown that sequence on the New Thinking Aloud series as well.
So it isn't just a moment where you fell asleep on camera.
And then we had a book based on the transcripts from the original Thinking Aloud program. And of course, now we have our own new imprint on New Thinking Aloud dialogues on White Crow Books. And here I am running the Beta Breakers race with my wife, Janelle. This would have been when we lived in San Francisco. We moved out in the year 2001. So this is probably in the 1980s or so.
That's a great photo.
Okay, there. And I became, at one time, I was vice president of the Association of Humanistic Psychology. And I worked with this lady, Sandy Friedman, who was president and who is still a very good friend. And interviewing Gary Zukav for the original series, and then the revised version of the Roots of Consciousness came out in, I think it was 93, second edition. Here I am in Russia with a very special friend, Jana Janis, and Fred Wolf at a wedding, his wedding, as a matter of fact.
Nice.
And here I am interviewing the Nobel laureate Murray Gell-Mann. These are all from the original series. And I've been interviewed on a few other documentaries. And here I am with my family, Janelle, and my stepson, Louis Barlow, who still lives with us.
Such a happy photo.
Yeah. Of course, I think most of our viewers are familiar with this book, published in the year 2000. And oh, this is a lot of fun. I gave a lecture on Halloween dressed up like this.
Can we just pause here for a minute? Can you tell us a little bit about your lecture and what inspired you to wear this costume?
You know, the costume originally I got for a lecture I gave in Mexico City for a conference on demonology. And I got up and said, well, everybody's here to talk about the devil, but I am the devil.
That gets their attention.
Yeah. And it was interesting because there were actually members of the Church of Satan who were on the panel at that time in Mexico City, but it was a good time. And I suppose you could say I showed some sympathy for the devil. Because I think to a large extent the devil has been maligned. But the devil is, according to the Judeo-Christian tradition, the devil is a creation of God.
And if we show compassion to the devil, then what happens? Well,
then we're showing compassion.
Yeah.
And a few other guests from the original series. Patricia Garfield was actually a next door neighbor of ours when we lived in San Francisco. And here I am.
You're going through them so fast, Jeff.
I know, but this is a good one. When we lived in Las Vegas, there was a mountain outside of Las Vegas called Turtle Head Peak, and I climbed it 50 times. And this is the 50th time sitting on the summit of this mountain, looking out over the Red Rock area of Las Vegas.
It's a beautiful photo of you, and you look so happy and in your element.
Yeah, I was very happy. And the truth is, I've been happy. I've been the happiest person I know, actually, ever since I married Janelle. I have to give her the credit.
That's so sweet.
Yeah. Then we moved to Albuquerque 5 years ago, almost 6 years ago now. And we brought our cow with us.
You have a cow?
That's Moolah.
Hi, Moolah.
Yeah, Moolah is in our backyard. Moolah is actually made of fiberglass, but is life-size.
Don't leave home without your Moolah.
And here I am at the Bigelow Award ceremony. He had a lot of interesting sculptures in the aerospace plant, and here I am posing with one of them.
It's a stormtrooper, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, from Star Wars. Yeah.
Fun.
And and here I am receiving the grand prize of the Bigelow essay competition for the best essay on evidence for survival of human consciousness after permanent bodily death. And
Yeah.
that was on my birthday 2 years ago. I turned 75 and was handed a check for $500,000. So that was definitely a highlight.
Yeah.
Here I am interviewing Robert Bigelow here in Albuquerque.
Yes. Done several interviews with him.
Yeah. And another interview here in Albuquerque with Lori Williams, who was
Yes.
a neighbor in New Mexico and one of the world's premier trainers of remote viewing. So anyway, that really ends the show. So
Nice.
um,
There you go.
So yeah, we can take questions from viewers. I'm very happy to have people join us. I encourage people to have a libation if they like and celebrate. And we can go through some of the questions that are coming in. I know one viewer has already asked how I met Janelle.
Yes, I was just going to say, and Janelle actually put a question in there as well. So I think that's a great place to start is with Janelle.
Oh, okay. Well, gosh, Janelle tells a wonderful story about it, but I we met without ever speaking a word to each other in Berkeley. We were both Berkeley graduate students, and in July of 1972, I went to Live Oak Park in Berkeley, where the San Francisco Mime Troupe was doing a performance of a play called The Dragon Lady's Revenge. And I sat on the grass, and I happened to notice I had to turn around and look behind me, right behind me on the grass was this woman with long hair, and she had a young child with her. And I turned around and looked at her for quite a while, and we turned back to watch the play. I had to look forward. And I remember after the play, she and the child walked out of the park. And I had this strange feeling like, oh gosh, there they go. I didn't know why I felt that way, but it was like, because we never spoke a word. But then, this was in July, I ran into the same lady at a Halloween party the following October. And we began talking all evening long. She was with another date, and I was there with a friend who kept her date occupied. So we spent the entire Halloween party talking to each other. And I said, weren't you the person that I was sitting in front of at Live Oak Park last July? And she remembered that as well. And so we dated on and off for 6 years before we got married. Really about once a year for 6 years. And then, after 6 years, the time had come, and we've been married since 1978. So that's the story in a nutshell.
Beautiful story. Well, your wife also asks, Janelle Barlow asks, what topics do you think will excite you the most in 10 years from now?
What an interesting question. If you think about the acceleration of knowledge that is leaking into the public about UFOs. I mean, UFOs have been a hot topic ever since I was a child. When I was 10 years old, I was writing letters to the authors of UFO books from our public library. I wrote to Donald Menzel at Harvard University, a debunker, a professor of astronomy, he wrote back to me to make sure I understood that he didn't believe in UFOs. But obviously, they've been a topic of conversation. And then I would say since 2017, the New York Times, Leslie Kean, who's been a guest on this show, and Ralph Blumenthal, who's been a guest on this show, released information in 2017 that the Navy acknowledged all kinds of interactions with UFOs off the coast of Southern California. And now we have congressional hearings and whistleblowers, and we did an interview with Jacques Vallée about every reason to think the government has crashed craft in their possession. They've been desperately trying to reverse engineer without any success for the last 70 years. And David Grush, the whistleblower, is claiming we have biological material that's not from this planet, supposedly. And imagine now, if these leaks keep coming as they have been in 10 years, I expect we're going to know a great deal more about government involvement with the whole UFO program, because there's every reason to think that there have been programs, special access programs, top secret programs that have been hidden from the general public for decades. And I'm sure that information about them is going to come out, probably bit by bit, reluctantly, over the next 10 years. But one way to think of it is that the public, the global public on this planet, is slowly being prepared for the possibility of interaction with intelligent beings that are non-human. Of course, there are non-human intelligent beings already we know of, like whales and dolphins on the planet, but perhaps a whole other species. I think that will be a really exciting development. And at the same time, I remember when the word remote viewing was used for the first time. It was really just another word for clairvoyance, but it had a particular protocol. And, gradually we understood the military was involved, and I got involved myself in 1976 when I experienced it at a visit to SRI International. But now there are literally tens of thousands of people practicing remote viewing. So the idea that clairvoyant abilities are widely distributed and available to the general public, that idea is taking hold. And I'm sure over the next 10 years, we're going to see a great deal more of it. So those are two very exciting developments that I look forward to conducting many interviews about over the coming years.
Yeah. There's a related question from Marla Fries. Hello, Marla, who's been a guest on this program, a wonderful medium herself, psychic medium. What do you think the UFO experience is doing for consciousness?
Well, for the people who have the experience, one of the hallmarks of it is that the communication between aliens and humans seems to be telepathic. It's not as if they open their mouths and speak by forcing air through these little, flaps of meat that we call our mouths. Telepathic communication is universally reported, and it suggests that if we wish to enter into a galactic community of spacefaring civilizations, we also need to cultivate, as a species, the human species, cultivate our psychic gifts. And it could well be that other species from other planets are naturally more gifted than humans are. On the other hand, I'm inclined to think that for a long time, we've been suppressing our own psychic abilities. One of the ways that we get suppressed is through the materialistic culture in which we live, where we value external goods more than internal. And I think that needs to shift in order for the human race to enter into equitable relationships with non-human beings from elsewhere in the universe, whether it's other dimensions or other planets, I'm never sure. But it does seem to me that the cultivation and the acknowledgement of our psychic gifts is actually one of the major trends, one of the major unnoticed trends taking place today. Started in the radio in 1972 talking about these things, and it was a rarity at that time on the radio. And now I see, for example, there are probably, I'm going to say, about 100 at least YouTube channels that do interviews just like New Thinking Aloud's. Many of the same guests are interviewed on those shows. I think this one is probably the best, but
I would agree.
we're prejudiced. But
Well, you set the tone for many others to follow. So there are a lot of them are doing a nice job, but we have a lot of really wonderful, credible guests as well. So
I've been interviewed myself on about 30 or so of these YouTube channels and podcasts. And so the fact that there are so many of them, I think, is reflecting a change in the culture.
definitely. And on a related note, so Marla is clearly very in tune. She asks, what is the most important behavioral change we all can make individually and as a collective to help humanity?
Well, we could each start by helping ourselves. And the way that I've always suggested to people to help ourselves, the way I like to put it, is to become the best version of yourself, which would mean, if you're a parent, it means being the best parent. If you're a child or a son or a daughter, being the best son or daughter, best brother or sister, best spouse, best student, best teacher, wherever you are in your life situation, to be the best that you can be. And also to strive to find a purpose for your life, or to create a purpose for your life that expresses your best potentials. My own feeling is that when you strive to become the best version of yourself, the universe wants that, and the universe will reach out to help you in mysterious ways.
Yes, and that's happened in your life.
Definitely, it's happened in my life. And that's why when I suggest that the universe is there to help you, I'm speaking from experience.
Yeah. So here's a fun question. This question is from Dominic Valet, Hopscotch Chronicles podcast. Jeffrey, do you remember what you were doing on 7/7/77, July 7th, 1977?
Well, I would have been a graduate student in Berkeley at the time. Let me see now, the psychic summer of 77. I'm pretty sure that's the summer in which I hosted an ESP training program that was actually offered for college credits through the University Extension Center at Berkeley. And it was before I had become particularly controversial, and there was an openness going on in academia. And it was part of my doctoral dissertation. I was working on a doctoral dissertation project at the time. I had a group of about a dozen people, and I was training them in remote viewing and trying to measure the effect of that training.
That's an excellent memory. I'm very impressed.
Well, I'm not sure about that particular date of July 7th, but I do know the psychic training program would have been going on then.
Yeah, what a great question. and a great answer. So here's a question from John Furs, who asks, from your current vantage point, what advice would you give your younger self?
I'm very thankful that that my younger self probably followed the advice. And it's a funny thing. Sometimes I think that I am sending messages to my younger self to make the decisions that have brought me to this moment, because this moment is a perfect moment for me, a fabulous moment. Doing the New Thinking Aloud YouTube channel has been a complete expression of who I am at the core of my being. And it's wonderful to be doing the kind of work that expresses your core. And it required along the way, I don't know, maybe 20 or 30 decisions here and there that had to have happened for me to be where I am right now. So I imagine there are times when I guess I'm either encouraging my younger self to have made those decisions, or I'm thanking them for having made them. Because after all, here I am.
Right. Here you are. Yes. This is also another really fun question. I don't know if I'm going to pronounce the name correctly, so please forgive me. Razwan Uy Haq. Happy birthday and shalom from England. What thought would you like to share on your birthday, and what gift is there still left for you to receive?
Well, thinking about the gift there is to receive, the one word popped into my mind: death. And of course, at the age of 77, anybody who lives to this age realizes you're getting closer to that moment when you're going to die. And because of all the study that I have done on the afterlife, I realize that death is an incredible gift. It's an amazing transformation, comparable to birth, of course. And so that's a gift that I'm waiting for. I'm in no rush, but and the other question, the first part of that question was, could you repeat that?
What would you like to share? I believe was the,
Yeah.
let's see, what we have, what is it you would like to share on your birthday, I think? What would you like to receive as well? What thoughts do you have?
Okay, here is my thought to share. For those of you who are viewing now, somebody might ask, why do you put out 3, 4, 5 videos every week? Do you expect us to watch them? That many? What are you doing? One guest, or not guest, viewer, one viewer even wrote and said, the world is going to end anyway. So why are you working so hard to put all of this information out and to share it with the world? And the reason that I do it is because I myself have been gifted over the last half century of my adult life to be pretty much immersed on a daily basis in the culture of 3 things: consciousness research, the paranormal, and spirituality. Those are our primary focuses. They're not our exclusive focuses. But I realize that these are big cultural issues, and the only way you can really, really appreciate them is to totally dive in, to immerse yourself in this culture, to become as aware as you can every day about the leading edge thinking in consciousness, the paranormal, and spirituality. It's not enough. Some people say, well, you've learned so much. Can you summarize the key points? And the truth is, no, I can't summarize the key points. But what I can do is share with you book after book after book, author after author after author, technique after technique after technique, to give each viewer a chance to totally become filled with all of this beautiful information. And I hear from viewers who say they get it. They're trying to do it. One viewer recently wrote, I watch a video of yours every single day, and I can't tell you how much it has changed my life in every single way. And I understand that, because that's what's happened to me. And I bet it's happened to you too, Emmy.
A lot of different perceptions and ways of experiencing the content.
So I hope to keep sharing as much of this as I can, as long as I'm able.
Yeah. I know when I interviewed you for my podcast, gosh, probably 5 years ago, I think now,
Yeah.
I asked you that question and you said the same thing. I can't summarize everything. However, you did give a nice answer that I recall about how you shared that all of the world's wisdom traditions and spiritual traditions teach that everything is interconnected and that we are all interconnected.
Yeah, that's the foundation of reality right there, that we are interconnected because of our consciousness. Obviously, at the material level, our bodies are quite separate. At least they seem to be quite separate. I think it might be an illusion of separation, but deep within ourselves, sort of like the islands in the ocean, if above the surface of the water, all the islands are separate. But if you go beneath the surface, they're all connected to the ocean floor.
Right. And that also may explain telepathy and precognition and the ability to know information beyond what we consider as, quote, rational thought.
You're getting right to the heart of things. Initially, when I started out in parapsychology, I was thinking, we've got to come up with a mechanism for this.
Mm-hmm.
Physical mechanism, a signal, an organ of perception, an organ of transmission. But that's all wrong. We haven't been able to do that in 150 years of psychical research and parapsychology. And the reason is that the reason the human mind can perceive information far away in time and space is because it's all part of who we are. We're connected. We're entangled with the entire universe, is one way to phrase it.
Entangled with the entire universe. I love it.
Yeah.
On that note, a person asks, Mary Aton Jalkanen, pardon me if I'm not pronouncing it correctly, how would you describe distant healing, faith healing? Thank you.
Well, it's very interesting. There are different theories, and traditionally, faith healing is all about, you surrender to the divine, and the divine does the healing. That's a good way to think about it. If you realize that we are all sparks of the divine ourselves, then you can say that, well, we all have within ourselves that power to heal ourselves. It's the sort of the basis of the well-known placebo effect, one of the strongest effects in medicine. And then if you consider that, well, we also have the power to remind each other, both through verbal suggestions or even through telepathic suggestions, that we have this power to heal ourselves because we have the divine spark in us, then telepathic healing becomes an aspect of how healing can occur. There's also the suggestion that it's a question of psychokinesis, mind over matter. And there may be something to that, although I don't like to emphasize the mind over matter aspect of healing, because in general, the psychokinesis can be an ego trap.
Mm,
It's
right.
one of the reasons that spiritual traditions warn us against it. People who practice psychokinesis have to be very careful not to get too ego attached.
Yeah, and to maybe explore their intentions behind it.
Because there's also, if you can heal someone psychically, you can hurt them as well. And who of us is free from negative thoughts?
Right.
There may be some saints around, but for the most part, we all carry negative thoughts from time to time. We're all prone to anger from time to time. And so it's for that reason, while I'm fascinated by psychokinesis, I've written a book about psychokinesis. I think we have a lot to learn about it. And you and I have talked over and over again about allowing the healing intentions of our viewers through various guided meditations to focus on some positive social outcomes that might be measurable. And one of our big projects for the upcoming year is going to be to look at gun violence. In fact, Emmy, you just sent me yesterday the New York Times article showing that suicide by gun violence, using gun violence for suicide, has never been higher. It's reached an all-time high. So when we talk about deaths from guns, I don't know, somewhere between a third and a half of them are people taking their own lives.
Right. The New York Times said that more than half of all gun deaths in the United States are suicides.
And, I think people have a right to end their life, but I do know that many, many people who attempt suicide and are rescued and go on to live their lives are very grateful that they didn't succeed. Oftentimes, people commit suicide because they're depressed over one thing or another. They've been harassed, or they were in a love relationship that ended and they feel despondent and commit suicide, or they're part of a persecuted minority group, like a very high rate of suicide amongst disabled people who are also gay or trans. And I think in many and probably almost all of those instances, people can learn that their life has a purpose and has meaning. They can discover that they can live a productive life. They don't need to commit suicide. But on the other hand, there are occasions when it's justified. In Oregon, they have the death with dignity law, for example, and I have a person, my wife's former husband, actually took advantage of that law to end his own life when he was suffering from a terrible case of colon cancer. And sometimes you're so disabled and you're in such physical pain and the prognosis isn't good, then I think it's justified. But in most other cases, it would be better not to do it.
Yeah, in the article, it talked about how just like somebody who maybe has an issue with alcohol, that you want to remove the alcohol from the home. So they were talking about how when there are more firearms in the home, those people are more likely to, in really down moments, take action. And there's efforts to actually remove those so that people are less likely to be tempted when they have those down moments. And yes, I think that, if I could put my arms around the whole world and everybody feel love, because I think that that's a central component. What do you think, Jeff? What do you think these people are, aside from when you talk about people who have terminal illness and all medical options have been exhausted and they're suffering terribly, you know, what do you think? Why do you think some of these, what do you think these people are looking for when
Well,
they're wanting to
I
take their
kind of think,
lives?
Emmy, that everybody's deepest desire, even though most people don't recognize it, is for spiritual union,
Mm,
union with the divine, to recognize that divine spark within us.
yeah.
But that desire gets misplaced. Some people think they can fulfill that desire through food, or some people think through sex that they can realize that desire. Or for some people, having a firearm makes them feel tough.
Mm,
When I was at San Quentin prison,
mhm.
where as a graduate student in criminology, I volunteered at the psychiatric unit of San Quentin prison. I was conducting group therapy sessions and individual therapy sessions with murderers and rapists. One of the inmates I met was the sweetest man, really, truly a lovely person and a gentle soul. And he had a fight with his wife, getting into a domestic quarrel. It happens from time to time. And the police were called in. The police came to break up the fight. The wife called the police, I guess. And this man, in a fit of rage, shot and killed the policeman.
Mm.
So he'll never get out of prison, as far as I know. And of course, this was 50 years ago. He's probably deceased now. But if he hadn't had a firearm handy, that wouldn't have happened.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's a blessing. And I think this is why you're getting so many happy birthday wishes and expressions of gratitude from all over the world, is because I do think that you and your amazing guests on New Thinking Aloud really do exemplify how we can feel that union with whatever each individual person perceives as the divine, or lack of feeling separate, right? Because that's where people can go awry.
I would say that ever since I began doing interviews over 50 years ago,
Mhm.
the the theme that has run through all of those interviews, especially the very best ones, and we usually work our way to get around to that theme near the end of the interview, is this fundamental idea of union, that we are all one. We're all interconnected. We are all part of each other. Or as spiritual people might say, we're all one in God.
Mm, sure. If one, however they may perceive that term, absolutely.
Oh.
So your wife, Janelle, I saw in the comments, is asking you to, I'll see how she phrased it, but essentially to share about the image behind you, and also talks about how your sister has some artwork as well. I don't know if you want to share any of that.
Well, it's my birthday present, is a print, my sister's art print. And for those viewers who are subscribers to our weekly newsletter, I published a couple of her art pieces in
Yeah,
the weekly newsletter. My
they're
sister
beautiful.
Pamela, who has
Mhm.
been a guest on New Thinking Aloud, is a fine artist and has just released a whole new series called Harsh Miracles. But they're wonderful. They're like extremely colorful, extremely biological. Maybe it would be like if you were to open up the body of an extraterrestrial, what you might find inside. And they're really wonderful pieces. We're going to get this one framed, and we're going to put it up in our dining room, so it'll be there for all of our dinner guests to see.
Well, Janelle's offering that if you want, she can walk it in and show it to everybody.
Well, yes, sure. We could do that. I'd be very happy. Um, I guess she could do that. Sure.
Great. So
It
maybe
may
we'll
be
be.
a little tricky though, that I've got the door closed, and if
Oh,
she's
okay.
holding this delicate piece of art, um, I probably have to go open the door for
Oh,
her.
okay, sure. We can all wait a moment.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see if she's still planning to do this.
And thank you to everybody who's writing in so many beautiful and loving and kind messages and asking wonderful questions. There are so many questions coming in. I know Jeff would love to answer all of them. So we're doing our best, and I'm doing my best to select a variety of questions. And Jeff also has access. So the moderators, and thank you to all the moderators who joined. He has access to that document as well with your questions.
There, for people who were just tuning in, this is my birthday present from Emmy.
It looks great on you. So fun.
Here comes Janelle. Let's
awesome.
see.
Ooh.
Yeah,
wow.
This
Here, I'll
is
put it
my
on speaker
birthday
view.
present. Isn't this wonderful?
It's gorgeous. Hi, Janelle.
Hi. I think Pamela is online.
Okay.
Anyway, hi, Pamela.
Well, this
Hi,
is
Pamela.
a shout out to Pamela. And for any of our viewers who are interested in acquiring some of the artwork, my sister's name is Pamela Fedderson, Fedderson. And her website where this artwork is available is PamelaFeddersonArt.com.
Great. And I know people have asked you several times on these live streams about the image behind you. Could you give us a brief synopsis of your beautiful art piece?
Oh, yeah. Let's see, this image, that is an antique Chinese print of Bodhidharma, who was the founder of Zen Buddhism, or well, in China, it was called Chan, the Chan Buddhist tradition in China. And the story goes that he was a great Buddhist teacher, and he was traveling in China and met with the emperor. The emperor of China, they're talking about spiritual matters, and the emperor says, well, just who do you think I am? And Bodhidharma said, I don't know who you are, which offended the emperor greatly. So he had to flee from the emperor. And he's in this picture, he's crossing the Yangtze River on a reed. He's got just a little like bamboo reed under his foot, and that enabled him to cross the river. And once he did that, he was far enough away from the emperor, and he founded then the Shaolin Monastery, the famous monastery where the Zen Buddhist monks also practiced martial arts.
Yeah. Wonderful. So we're switching gears here just briefly. Astral Sky would like to know, how has the transition from traditional broadcasting to YouTube affected how you create and share content? And they make you with a capitalized U. Any challenges or opportunities with this shift? And do you miss anything about television broadcasting days?
Well, things have changed a lot. The original Thinking Aloud program had a great run. We were on public television from 1977 through 2002, 15 years. But things have changed so much since then. And one of the things about YouTube, which I really like, is we have total control over our content. We interview who we please. We interview them for as long as we like. Whereas on television, I was constrained to the half-hour format. And also the original Thinking Aloud series, I tried as much as possible to include guests on topics related to spirituality, and in particular parapsychology, because the 1970s was a glorious decade of progress in the field of parapsychology. But to be honest, we couldn't do it that much because we were constrained by the various program directors of the public television stations, who they could tolerate a little of that, but not exclusively. If the original Thinking Aloud series had covered parapsychology, UFOs, and consciousness and spirituality to the extent that we now do, I'm not sure we would have had a 15-year run the way we did. So we covered many conventional topics in science, in culture, and in biology, because we considered ourselves a leading edge intellectual program, which we still are, but now the emphasis, because of, I suppose, my passion and your passion, Emmy, is much more directed to spirituality, consciousness, and the paranormal.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's so many incredible videos. I mean, and sometimes I'll rewatch them and I see from a new perspective, even when I'm interviewing people. Jeff, does this happen to you when you're interviewing people and then you read their book, or you look at their content or their theories or their research, or oftentimes the books we read are their actual doctoral dissertations. Then you do the interview, conduct the interview, and then we edit our own interviews. And I have found that I get slightly different perspectives and even deeper nuances as I go through each of those stages. Does that happen to you when you interview your guests?
Absolutely. It does. It's a 3-stage process, as you say. There's the preparation, the actual interview, and then the editing. And in the editing phase, you get a chance to hear yourself and to hear the other person. And I'm sorry for that noise in the background.
Wasn't that loud?
And I always learn a lot from the editing, because I get the opportunity to actually rehear what I had been saying.
Right, and see it all flow together.
Yeah. So the second time, it really deepens the imprint of the conversation. I feel sorry for the guests who only get to go through them once, unless they take the trouble to listen more than once, which some do. I hear from guests who will sometimes listen several times to a particular interview, and I encourage that.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and the viewers. And I've also noticed it's kind of like sometimes when you read a book versus watch a movie, that, yeah, the movies often can be great, sometimes not so great, but the book is often richer and so much more information. So I always think about, I wish that the viewers could also read the books, but at least we're doing that for all of you as much as we can and synthesizing it as best we can. And because I know not everybody has the time to read all of those books, but I know that's why Audible and audiobooks have become more popular, which I know that's something that you're looking into exploring, Jeff.
We're looking into a range of ideas for turning New Thinking Aloud from an all-volunteer operation to one in which we can actually pay volunteers such as yourself, Emmy, who are putting in so many hours every week to keep the channel going. That's why we encourage our viewers, incidentally, to go visit newthinkingaloud.org and to donate to the New Thinking Aloud Foundation. It makes a difference to us, but we have many plans for the future in terms of offering educational opportunities, possibly live events we're evaluating right now. And it's true, not everybody has the time to watch the interviews more than once or to watch every interview. But, we have 153,000 subscribers now. Yes. And I would say a percentage of them, let's say 2% of those people, which is 1,500, maybe 3,000 people or so, they want to immerse themselves completely in this material. And I think we're going to start to create some special opportunities for the really hardcore viewers.
Yeah, and it's a labor of love. I'm learning so much through this process, and it's a joy to receive this information from the incredible guests and to be working with you alongside all the other incredible volunteers. And it enriches my life, and it also enriches others hopefully at the same time. And I know that synchronicities happen for people regularly on New Thinking Aloud. It happens to me regularly as well. And so, I think people will find what they're looking for. And on that, here's a related question from John Furs asks, what would you like the New Thinking Aloud organization to look like 25 years from now?
Well, that's a wonderful question. I can't say I've ever projected that far into the future. 25 years from now would be, we're just at the end of 23, so it'd be 2048, almost at the halfway mark of the 21st century. It's very hard to envision, because if you look back 25 years, we have things in our life we didn't have then at all. Artificial intelligence is just coming into its own in the last year or two. And I expect that we will be operating, technologically speaking, at a very different level than we are today. But I don't want to use artificial intelligence in the wrong way. I want to use it in the right way. Somebody recently offered an artificial intelligence program that will respond intelligently to the viewer comments. And I thought to myself, well, it'd be great, because the YouTube algorithms love it when you respond to the viewer comments, but wouldn't it be deceptive to have an artificial intelligence bot doing it so that the viewers think that they're interacting with you or me? I wouldn't want that to happen.
Yeah, well, we're making an effort. I'm making an effort to comment more to people, and we do appreciate all the comments, and we do read all of them. I don't know if people know that, but I usually read all of them.
I always read all of them.
Yeah, well, it's on through your YouTube channel, so you always, yeah.
I do. I wish I could respond.
Yeah.
To all of them, and maybe we'll figure out some ways, because I do think that one of the advantages of the live stream, why we're doing this now, is because it gives us a chance to engage with the audience, to have some back and forth directly with our audience. And I think we want to do more of that. We want New Thinking Aloud to be more interactive. And it's not always easy when you have thousands and thousands of people in the audience and you're doing multiple videos every week, to be able to respond to all the viewers. But we're going to try to find more ways to do that.
Yeah, well, we do like all the comments. I know that. And also, Jeff, you have done such a beautiful job over the years. Now, having worked with you as a guest host and a co-host for 2 years now, there are publicists we work with. People bring us potential guests regularly. It's sometimes, I'll just say it's a joyous experience to see how many people want to be on this program. So, we are doing our best to find the topics of interest, and also please let us know what topics you're interested in. I mean, I think that we know what New Thinking Aloud is about, but we'd love to hear also what's on your mind as well.
Well, as a matter of fact, let me make a suggestion to viewers who are thinking of recommending. And I see these recommendations often. You can write to us. The email address, friends@newthinkingaloud.com, is published on the YouTube channel for people. You can write directly, or you can post a message in the comments section. But if all you do is say, I hope you interview so-and-so, that gets to the bottom of the pile, because for one thing, you may know all about so-and-so, but we don't. So if you want to recommend somebody, a good thing to do is to at least include a link to their website or something, so that we can investigate who they are and why you think we should interview them. But just to list the name alone, it puts you right at the very bottom of the list. And I can tell you right now, we never get to the bottom of the list.
It just keeps, I mean, it really is a testament to your very comprehensive program you put together, and how people really value New Thinking Aloud. They want to be on your program, and we would love to interview most all of these people. But the truth is, it's a challenge, which is also why you've been bringing in more guest hosts as well, is to expand even more.
Well, yes, we do want to include more programming. That's a goal of mine.
Yeah. Well, there's been a few comments about how good you look, Jeff. I am curious. I want to ask you, my dad used to always ask me this on my birthday. How does it feel to turn 77? How do you feel in your life now?
Well, I feel as a person the same level of energy and mental acuity that I had when I was younger. I don't necessarily feel like an old person.
Yeah.
And I'm blessed to be in general health overall, but I got a pacemaker for my heart. I wear a CPAP machine at night when I sleep. I'm thinking of getting knee replacement surgery. So as you get older, like an old car or something, there are very few cars on the road these days from 1946. But
with all the original parts, you need few little upgrades here and there.
Yeah, you do. So I'm coming to terms with it. I think when I first started New Thinking Aloud, I did one of the monologues on get what it's like to get older, because I was, about to turn 70, which felt really old now. But Janelle has already turned 80, and she's in many ways more vibrant and active than I am. So I'm looking forward to being healthy and vibrant and continuing to do these interviews for many, many years to come.
Oh, well, I could speak for all of us, I believe. We all want that to happen. And you make 77 look good. And it's not just how you look, but it's, how you feel, of course. And somebody in the chat, it's so funny. They said, Kieran Barrera McCourt says, feels just like after 76, right? That's what I'd always say to my dad. How does it feel to turn 8, Emmy? Well, it feels like 7. So, right. So on that note, Jujubee Carver asks, please say something about your meditation or spiritual practice.
Okay, well, I'm very eclectic. So I don't have a single spiritual practice. I certainly don't have a guru. I don't I'm not a joiner of any spiritual organizations, although for example, I've taught parapsychology for about 2 decades on behalf of the United Church of Religious Science. Well, it's now known as the Centers for Spiritual Living. I feel a lot of sympathy toward all of the different spiritual organizations that we feature on New Thinking Aloud. Maybe my spiritual practice ultimately is in doing the interviews, because it requires concentration and it requires being present with the other person, being totally present. So that in itself is a kind of a spiritual discipline, but in a way, I think I feel that life is the spiritual discipline. Being born here at all, living on this planet, is a spiritual test, if ever there was, to live every aspect of one's life consciously. And I'm far from perfect. I don't purport to be any kind of a guru in that respect, but I make an effort.
Yeah, well, you're definitely an inspiration for so many people and the guests you interview. And, you are a professional in your own right, having your doctorate in parapsychology. You were a psychotherapist for a number of years. And then now all these years, you've interviewed so many experts in this field. So you are really a repository of a vast amount of wealth and knowledge.
And it's an incredible joy. That's why I love sharing it with people. I'm so happy doing what I do. And I know that people who immerse themselves in the videos even if they don't have the opportunities that we have to have direct face-to-face conversations with all these wonderful guests, the people who immerse themselves in the videos gain a great deal from them. Although we don't promise anything, we're not saying these videos will change your life, but I keep hearing from viewers who say, I've been watching your videos intensely, and they have changed my life.
Yeah, another understanding for myself that I've noticed through, well, since Thinking Aloud, but also with New Thinking Aloud, and also now conducting, I don't know what I've done, over 60 interviews now with you on New Thinking Aloud, is that it really shows various perspectives or lenses through which we can, we all really fundamentally are very similar at the end of the day. And I think that a lot of the challenges in life with each other is that we think there's so much difference. Now, of course, we want to celebrate everybody's uniqueness and individuality, because otherwise life would be boring if we just hung out. If you just hung out with yourself or thousands of yourself, that'd be very boring. We need some of those differences in order to, have other perspectives. So you look like you want to say something, Jeff.
Well, what you're saying reminded me of the image of it's called the Ouroboros, the snake eating its own tail. And I did this interview with James Driscoll, who was my college roommate when I was an undergraduate in Madison. He's become the author of several books, and we've done about 5 or 6 interviews with him. And in one of those interviews, he said, it's a terrible thing to be the snake eating its own tail. I always thought of it as a very interesting spiritual symbol of wholeness, actually, that the snake is in effect nurturing itself and fulfilling itself. But he's suggesting that, no, the snake is like a hermit, all alone, trying to find enlightenment from within, only from within. That there's even he would go so far as to say it can lead to evil when a snake or a person like the snake thinks that they can sustain themselves, that they don't need others, that or they don't need something from outside of themselves. You could say a higher power, but I would say other people, since we are all participants in the divine. We all have the divine spark. We learn about the divine through each other.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's a joy learning about the divine through you, Jeff, and all of the wonderful guests you've interviewed. Here's a question that is very related to a 77th birthday. Mommy's Boy, spelled B-O-I, asks, do you want to be immortal? I sure would love to. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I suspect that we are. That's what it means to have the divine spark within us. I'm sure that, this frame, or as Robert Bigelow liked to call it, this container is going to die. And when it does, Jeffrey Mishlove won't exist, but I will. Yeah. I came to the realization, actually, as an undergraduate in college, that I am not Jeffrey Mishlove. Jeffrey Mishlove is just a name associated with this body. Mm-hmm. It's not who I am. Mm-hmm. There is a sense that we all have within us the I am that I am.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yes. I just had another conversation with Robert Thurman about his translation of the Tibetan Book of the Dead, and he echoes everything that you're saying as well. So that's coming out this coming week. So I hope people get a chance to listen to that.
It'll be released on Wednesday.
On Wednesday, yes. Mm-hmm. How are you doing, Jeff, with these questions? I've got more for you. We just have 15 minutes left. Can I keep going?
Doing fine. We have about 50, I took off my
15
glasses.
minutes left. Yep.
15 minutes left. It's been a joy. I'll have another sip of the bubbly.
Yes, let's have another toast to Jeff, and may you have many, many more years of
And
joy.
to you, Emmy, you've been a fabulous co-host.
Thank you, Jeff. Well, it's a joy and honor of my life. I hope you don't tire of me saying that, but it really is true. It's a labor of love, what we do.
Mhm.
So here's a question from Audic Ricks. How can we help what is happening in the Middle East through your experience or the experience of becoming or being the best version of ourselves? It's a great question.
Well, I'm sure you know of the St. Francis prayer.
Yeah.
One that goes, Lord, help me to change the things that I can change and help me to accept the things that I cannot.
Mm-hmm.
The conflict in the Middle East, you can trace it back to its biblical roots. It's part of conflicts that have been going on ever since the early patriarchs and the days of the Hebrew Bible, going back maybe 4,000 years, when Abraham had basically two families, a family of Sarah and Isaac, and the family of Hagar and Ishmael. And Ishmael is considered the father of the Arab people. Isaac is considered the father of the Judeo-Christian tradition. But the conflict between these two stepbrothers or half-brothers has been going on ever since biblical times. There's probably a very deep reason for it. And so some things simply need to be accepted. On the other hand, I think that when we hold peaceful thoughts in our heart and in our minds, that we create peace in our own lives, that spreads. And there's good evidence. I recently did a live stream about it, saying, can thoughts and prayers stop gun violence, which is an issue? Well, yes, I think thoughts and prayers can stop gun violence. And I think thoughts and prayers can impact global conflicts as well, especially in advance and not after the fact to say, oh, well, let's pray for their souls in heaven or something like that. But no, in advance, when you can find peace in your own heart, then you can be a source of transmitting that peace, let's say telepathically, all across the interconnected, entangled network of consciousness, which is this planet.
Yeah. Beautiful, Jeff. Well, I just want to let you know that there's a few people, or I also wanted to add that in-presence video is excellent. And yes, there is research and that's what you've been all about for all these years, right, Jeff, is that our consciousness impacts our reality. And we had Lynn McTaggart on recently as a guest as well, who has done, well, I don't know, dozens, maybe even to the hundreds of experiments on how group intention can impact plants, can impact people, can impact communities. There was the most violent zip code in Missouri that her group was able to have a reduction of violence by, I believe it was 40%. So she may be somebody, she's agreed to consult with us as well for our next project that we are working on. On that note, because we understand with the rainbow yin yang, right, there's different views. I just want to let you know that a few people have commented asking how many lives have been saved by guns, and do you support the Second Amendment, I believe was the question as well.
Well, I didn't write the Second Amendment, and I don't think I would have if I were one of the founding fathers, but there it is. So I'm not in favor of revoking it, but my understanding of the Second Amendment, it had something to do with the creation of militias, not the idea that every individual who wanted to have a gun, especially people who are mentally ill, who have a habit of harassing other people, and engaging in domestic violence are entitled to guns. I don't believe in that. I'm definitely in favor of gun regulation, but the point of our effort to address gun violence through our intentions, through guided meditation, isn't to change the Second Amendment or to take guns away from people or even to regulate guns. My personal opinions about political issues are irrelevant to any of that. The idea here is simply that by extending our peaceful thoughts and our specific intentions for the person who has a gun, who is contemplating going out and committing mayhem, for that person to breathe deeply, to think twice about what they're planning to do, and maybe to refrain from engaging in some sort of horrible action that would not only be harmful to other people, but in the end of the day, harmful to themselves as well. I think we can have an impact on that. I think we can have a measurable impact on those statistics that just seem to be getting worse and worse all the time. And that's what I'm in favor of. Thoughts and prayers before the event rather than after.
Right. Right. And so many innocent people being killed is never the answer.
Mm-hmm.
So just to kind of shift gears here, we've got 9 minutes left, and thank you everybody for your fabulous questions. And like I said earlier, we wish we could answer all of them. And I know Jeff will go through and look at these, and some of your questions might even inspire another in presence video from him, or maybe some of the other topics we'll do for interviews or other live streams. So this person's name on YouTube is YouTube channel, and they ask, do you engage the possibility that you are William James' reincarnation, as Walter Simcoe once told you he got from Kevin Ryerson, a reading and other research into notable correspondences? And I know you've addressed this, but this person really wanted you to answer their question.
Well, Walter Simcoe wrote a book called Return of the Revolutionaries, in which he postulated that the founders of America, the founding fathers, had returned in various forms, and he was able to identify who they were. In fact, he believed he himself was John Adams. And he could make a very interesting case for it. He said one way to tell is physical features. He said physical features remain similar from lifetime to lifetime, which is why earlier when we began this live stream, I showed a picture of myself back in the days when I had a beard next to the picture of William James. Yeah, there is a physical resemblance there. And there's more than that. William James was a great pioneer in psychical research, and which has been my lifelong passion. So there's a resemblance there, enough of a resemblance that I'm very intrigued by the possibility that there might be some link. And back in 2004 or 2007, I forget which, I published a paper in the Journal of Humanistic Psychology, co-authored with psychologist Brendan Engen, who's been a guest on New Thinking Aloud, on the theory of archetypal synchronistic resonance. Kevin Ryerson, a very talented trance channel, said that he did agree with this connection, that I had been William James. And he did agree also that I had been the Roman philosopher Seneca in a past lifetime. And as I puzzled over that, I thought, yeah, there seemed to be some parallels on the one hand. On the other hand, I have no real conclusive evidence. But maybe it's not a question of reincarnation. Maybe it's something that we called archetypal synchronistic resonance. I know other people too, they resonate with historical persons. And sometimes that resonance is so strong that there are many synchronicities that pop up in relationship to it. And so I would go so far as to say that I am engaged in a synchronistic resonance with William James and with Seneca. And I think that often the idea of synchronistic archetypal resonance is a better explanation for many cases than reincarnation, particularly cases like this involving connections derived through hypnosis and through channeling, that in order for me to be certain, to be able to say with any confidence that I was such and such a person in a past life, I would want more evidence. I would want the kind of evidence that parapsychologists at the University of Virginia have when they ascribe past lives to young children who come up with different memories. But I've never had those kinds of memories. I have no memories of having been William James or Seneca, or let me put it this way, the memories that I do have were brief flashes that might last for a tenth of a second and weren't substantial enough for me to include them as evidential.
Fascinating. So we're getting lots of questions from people about how can one begin to develop their psychic intuitive gifts or abilities, and where would you suggest they begin learning remote viewing? And I also just want to slide in another question about, somebody asks, can you essentially fool yourself with what you feel is following your bliss or becoming the best version of yourself?
And the answer to the second question is yes. You have to have in this business an appreciation for the human capacity for folly. We're all very human, and we all make mistakes, and sometimes big mistakes. So that's part of who we are. Every human being is susceptible to doing foolish things.
How can we avoid that? How can we become our best version of ourselves and authentically know what that is?
Now, well, in my case, I can look back now over 50 years and say that the decisions that I was guided to make by dreams, and I've talked about those dreams many times, were the right decisions, because here I am today, the happiest person I know, and I can look back and you know, from the perspective when you're in your 70s, you have the opportunity to look back and see whether the decisions you made were foolish or not, or which ones, I should say, were the most foolish.
Yeah.
But so
hindsight is 2020.
It's one of the advantages of being older is the ability to look back. And I can certainly say I've made a number of mistakes along the way as well. And as for cultivating psychic abilities, you know, I personally am probably not the best person to ask. I'm not a remote viewing trainer. And I don't encourage people, if they don't feel called, if you don't feel that it's part of your purpose in life to be a remote viewer, to be a gifted psychic reader, if that you have that gift and you want to cultivate it. I certainly had many, many psychic experiences, but I just consider them gifts along the way, and that my real purpose of being here is to be a communicator to the world at large of the realities of psychic life and esoteric culture. That's my ultimate purpose. And I've come to realize that it's true, tested over time. So I don't encourage people to try to become psychic. I encourage people in a way to do what I've done, to immerse themselves in this culture of self-knowledge and consciousness, and to be aware that psychic functioning is real and it can be there to assist you when you need it. It was there for me when I needed it. I don't need it every day of my life.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So and your side development systems book actually, I think, is a wonderful way if people want to explore more about how to develop those abilities, because you really, that is your doctoral dissertation, right? And you really researched those ways to do that.
The number one way, of course, is to meditate, to learn how to relax and quiet your mind. When your mind is quiet, you're going to be more open to that still small voice within you, which is really the expression of the divine spark. And when you learn to quiet yourself so that the divine spark can be, in effect, louder and louder because you're listening for it and listening to it, that then wherever it guides you will be the right place. But you can always be misled by your own emotions, particularly the emotions of greed and fear. They become much louder in your mind, and sometimes we get misled by them.
Right. And sometimes fear is something to pay attention to, right? So it's discerning. So we are at our 90 minutes, Jeff, and because I am co-hosting with you and you are the honored guest today, I would like to end with one more question, if you don't mind just going another minute or two. It's a lovely question. This is from Frankie Loves Foxes. What are some of the most beautiful things you have ever seen? And I would throw in there, or experienced.
Well, oddly, what's coming to mind is that wonderful piece of artwork by my sister Pamela that we showed earlier. I think her artwork is beautiful. I'm proud of my sister and would love to share her artwork with our viewers and with the world. But I think beauty is something that we discover within ourselves. Ultimately, that life is beautiful, and that a lifestyle of pursuing wisdom is a beautiful thing. And for all of our viewers who feel inspired by what we do, it's a beautiful thing to be able to share the wisdom and the knowledge of all of the people who we interview. And it's not only beautiful, it's joyful.
Yeah.
Aristotle once said that, the three things worthy of pursuing in life are beauty, truth, and goodness. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, I think that when you do pursue beauty, truth, and goodness, you discover that they merge, that the truth, beauty, and goodness all converge. You could say they converge in the divine. And along with that comes peace, love, and joy as well. They kind of all go together. And I think for those of you who are regular viewers of New Thinking Aloud, that in effect is ultimately what we're offering: peace, love, and joy, beauty, truth, and goodness. That's what we're about. And there's nothing I can think of more rewarding than sharing that with people.
Yeah. And also being with everybody, and we can reverberate and amplify that beauty, truth, and joy as well. And thank you to all of the viewers being here today. Jeff, do you have any final thoughts for this live stream on your 77th birthday?
Well, I want to thank you, Emmy. You've done a great job as the moderator. It's been a blessing for me to have you as the co-host on New Thinking Aloud. I think you've really stepped up and fulfilled that role to its full potential. And it's a wonderful thing for me to behold when you interview people like Thomas Verney and Rod Chelberg and Robert Thurman, and do such a wonderful job of bringing out the best in them.
Well, thank you. Well, I've had an excellent mentor. So, well, thank you all for joining us. And do you want to do your closing, Jeff, of where people how they can get the best out of New Thinking Aloud?
Well, yes, I know a lot of people don't want to be bothered by having a weekly newsletter show up in their email, but for a few thousand people who are our hardcore supporters and viewers, they get a lot out of the newsletter. It includes artwork, it includes occasional poetry, it includes news announcements and previews of our upcoming videos. So we're very happy to have you subscribe to the newsletter. It's free. Our quarterly magazine is free. For the last 9 years, my philosophy has been to give as much away for free as possible. And I kind of think that after 9 years, we've taken that philosophy as far as we can. So we're looking at ways to further monetize New Thinking Aloud so that even after I'm gone, there will be enough cash flow to pay for the younger people, such as yourself, Emmy, who are coming in and who could keep this YouTube channel and the other work that we're doing alive for decades to come, long after I'm gone. That's the legacy I'd like to leave.
It's a beautiful legacy, and we'll still be putting out free content, right, Jeff? Or is that still?
No,
Yeah.
of course we will.
Yeah, so that's not going to go away. Well, cheers to you again, Jeffrey Mishlove. Thank you again for all that you have done and who you are and the way you inspire all of us. And I just want to also say thank you to everybody for being with us, because you are the reason that we are here. Cheers, everybody.
Thank you, Emmy.
Happy birthday, Jeff.